Hello, my name is Ashley Lee, and I'm the current principal at Bridgeport Elementary School. And today I'm going to discuss the new induction and mentoring program for new teachers for Jackson County Schools. So at Bridgeport Elementary School, we have 13.5 classroom teacher units, a half of a librarian, a half of a counselor, a full administrative unit, which is myself, and we have a pre-K teacher that's funded through the 21st Century Grant Program. As far as degree goes, 45% of our teachers have a master's degree or higher. And according to our demographics in the system, only 0.5, which is it's actually our counselor, is African American. Everyone else is listed as Caucasian. This is somewhat relative to our student demographics. We're about 10% African American. We do have a lot of American Indian students here, but as far as Caucasian and African American, it's somewhat similar. I do wish we had more diversity in our teachers across the county. For teacher experience, you can see that a lot of our teachers are new. This is less than 5 years. This is because 2 years ago we had about 4 or 5 teachers retire, and because of this we've had some moving around in the district too in the last 2 years. We have 23.5% of our teachers are new or have had less than 5 years of experience. As far as the rest of it goes, 6 to 10 years, 11 to 15 years, and 16 to 20 years, they're all the same. Each of those portions are 17.6%. Those make up our teachers. Also, 21.5 is 17.6%. We do have a few that have over 26 years. They're waiting to get out the door right now. We have about 6% of those. So, welcome to Jackson County. This is for our new teacher induction program. Sometimes we call Jackson County JCO, so you might hear me say that throughout the presentation. So as far as the induction or the orientation for new teachers, this is our agenda. We have the Alabama Code of Ethics, which we'll review over those and how it pertains to the state of Alabama and just everyday teaching life. We have general expectations. These are things like work hours, time, extracurricular activities that you might have to do as a new teacher, and just general expectations overall of how we expect all of our employees to act. Then we have special education and ELLs, which stands for English Language Learners. This aspect of the orientation is going to be discussed by the directors and the supervisors at the district that specialize in these two things or break-offs. Then next we have our curriculum break-offs, which are just going to split up into elementary, which is K-6, and secondary, which is 7-12, to discuss all the curriculum and the textbook requirements. So the first thing we're going to discuss for orientation is the Alabama Code of Ethics. There's 9 standards within the Code of Ethics for the state of Alabama, but these are just a few. We've condensed a few and combined some of those. The first one is professional conduct. So this is just how you act with your other colleagues and being respectful at all times and just being a positive role model for all of our students. Next, we have trustworthiness. We expect everyone that we hire to be trustworthy. That's a huge deal at a new job. And then we've combined unlawful acts, which is like felonies and things like that. That can get you in trouble if you are an employee of the state. You're getting paid with tax dollars and you get into some trouble. We've combined that with drugs and alcohol and tobacco use. Those things are illegal, especially on campus. Next, we have professional relationships. This is just in regards to teacher-student relationships. Those should remain professional at all times. Then we have combined confidentiality and mandatory reporting to kind of go over those together. And then lastly, we're going to discuss public funds and property. These are how you're going to handle money, because this money is our, it's not necessarily your money or the school's money. It's the state's money, and we have to keep up with that accordingly. Next on the orientation agenda list is teacher expectations. So we're going to discuss work hours. Every school somewhat varies because the way our buses transit, they go, a school might have to start early, and the last school that the buses pick up might have to start later, things like that. But for Bridgeport Elementary School, we start at 7:10 and we leave by 3:10 every day. Extracurriculars, these are things like club sponsors, coaches, tutoring, things like that. You might be expected to do some of those in your new position. Social media, this is a big deal now. A lot of people think that it's okay to express every and all opinions that you have on your social media accounts. But with teachers and administrators and even support personnel, anybody hired by the district, you kind of have to somewhat filter out what you may or may not have put on there in the past. We'll discuss that. And lastly, we'll talk about your planning and how long you will have planning. If you have any questions about that, feel free to ask. K-6 teachers, you guys will have your planning during your students' PE times. A lot of the schools have a physical education teacher that pulls your students for 30 to 45, sometimes an hour. Just varies by school. This year, for the 2022-2023 school year, 7-12 teachers are going to have common planning because we're going to go back to the block schedule for the upcoming year. And everyone will have common planning from 2:40 to 3:15 in the afternoon. Next up is special education and English language learners. So because these things are so important, I've decided to let the supervisors and the specialists discuss these things. So for the SPED, or for the special education aspect, we're going to have the special education director go over these. They're going to discuss what an IEP looks like. I know sometimes that people don't go over that in school. They're going to discuss the referral time. So generally you have to have X number amount of weeks before you can refer a new student. You have to have lots of work samples and things like that. You can't just meet somebody and think, oh, I think they're special ed and I'm going to refer them. It's a process. Also, once they have the packet has been submitted and the parent signs off saying my students can be tested, you have, I believe it's 60 days. The central office has 60 days to test the students and see if they qualify. So the supervisor will go over those things too. And then the special ed supervisor and the ELL federal programs teacher will go over accommodations and what are some of the things you might see in your classroom. And lastly, we'll touch on English language learners, this is going to be done by the federal programs teacher, and what your expectations are as far as a general ed teacher in regards to those ELL students. Lastly, for the orientation, we're going to have breakout sessions. So we're going to split the room in K-6 is going to go to one side, 7-12 is going to go to the other. And we have curriculum specialists right now at the central office at our district location. We have an elementary curriculum specialist and a secondary curriculum specialist. Those two specialists are going to run those breakout sessions. They're going to discuss the standards, the state standards. Some of those have changed recently. And then all the new textbooks that come along with it and how they compare and contrast, because they're always going to contrast. All right, so the next portion of my presentation is the new teacher mentoring program. So what are our goals for this program? So we don't necessarily have a program right now in Jackson County Schools. We assign mentors, and that's essentially it. We just expect for those teachers to kind of do it. We're very informal, and sometimes you have to be formal in order for a process to work. So our goals are to retain new teachers. That's the whole point, right, of a mentoring program. We also need to do a better job at training our mentors. This is something that we don't do currently that we definitely need to do. And overall, just help our new teachers succeed, because if our new teachers succeed and they learn from our old teachers that are succeeding in their job, our students are also going to succeed, our schools are going to succeed, and our district is going to succeed. We need to prepare our mentors. In order to have a successful program, we must have well-trained mentors. These mentors will be chosen by the campus principal. This is because our schools are so small. Like for instance, for me, I only have about 14 teachers to choose from, and you saw a ton of those have less than 5 years of experience. The mentors also have to agree to the program because there's a lot of work that goes into it. A professional development will be required, 1 4-hour session in the fall and 1 4-hour session in the spring. We'll also have personality quizzes so that we can hopefully try to match up those mentors and mentorees as much as possible, even though we have a small pool to choose from. This is just an example of the agenda that we might have for part 1 of the PD. It says objective to further educate veteran teachers on how to effectively mentor new teachers in our county. Excuse me. We're going to go over characteristics of a good mentor. We're going to have some activities, some common knowledge for newbies. Sometimes older teachers just expect people, they've been doing it for so long, they think they don't realize that we should have to teach those things. So we're going to kind of go over those and some of our semester duties. There are going to be some required meetings for these mentors and mentorees and administrators. So number 1, mentors must schedule meetings with their assigned teacher at least once a month. And it's the principals and administrators' responsibility to make sure that they have common planning or make it happen. You might have to get a sub and pay for it with your PD money. Assistant principals or principal, some people don't have assistant principals, but an administrator anyway must meet with both the mentor and mentoree. And then all the sign-off sheets, the checklist, the agendas for all of these meetings must be signed and sent to the central office in order for our mentors to receive their stipend. And that's it. Thanks for listening.